Oh, what a privilege it is, and also a little intimidating to be together. It's been a long time since I've been with an audience like this, but it's a great pleasure to be with friends, and I hope to be also soon additional friends who not only share commitment to certain fundamental truths, but beyond those propositions, who share gratitude for the way those truths, and ultimately the one those truths point to, redeem, cleanse, and empower our lives together. And I'm also grateful because in addition to those commitments, we share a freedom to ask the big questions about what these commitments mean and what they might yet mean in the face of ongoing discovery. So what we're going to look at now, and what BioLocus has done for the last several years, is two things. In what way do the natural sciences illuminate the wondrous distinctives that God has endowed all humans with? And on the other hand, in what way have those sciences been misused to deny dignity to certain groups of humans, ethnically or in terms of ability, or maybe even deny dignity in general to humans? I want to start with a quote from James Rachel's book, Created from Animals. Darwinism undermines both the idea that man is made in the image of God and the idea that man is a uniquely rational being. The idea of human dignity turns out, therefore, to be the moral effluvium of a discredited metaphysics. This is one of literally hundreds of quotes I could share. Nature, a few years ago, had this as a lead article. With all deference to the sensibilities of religious people, the idea that man was created in the image of God can surely be laid aside. Now, I want to set aside for the moment whether being made in the image of God hinges on there's being certain exceptional characteristics of human biology. I think there are arguments why it might not mean that, but certainly here there is the denial that there's anything distinct about human biology. And Jim has said we got 10 minutes, so I only want to make 2 points. And the first one is, what about this issue of human distinctives? Now, by the way, it often begins with something like, is there a difference in degree or a difference in kind? The philosophy of natural kinds is itself a fascinating and complex question, but I want to start by saying, in one respect, this is a false dichotomy. You can have a difference in degree that becomes so pronounced that you can rightly ascribe a difference in kind. Something could be such a radical outlier that it might not make sense to put it in the original population. And this is what a number of my colleagues in evolutionary biology, the exact language that they have recently been using. So humans are a spectacular outlier with respect to all other animal species, a spectacular evolutionary anomaly, a huge anomaly in the animal world. We alone on Earth. Now, by the way, the folks making these claims are themselves not outliers. They're mainstream evolutionary biologists. But a bunch of quotes doesn't make something true. That would just be an ad populum argument or an argument from authority. We want to ask, well, in what way are these folks claiming we are outliers? Especially Richard Dawkins, the last person. How are we alone on Earth? What? We alone on Earth can rebel against the tyranny of the selfish replicators. Many biologists are claiming that what makes us unique is this distinctive prosociality, that human cooperation exceeds that of all other species with respect to the scale and the range. The range meaning we cooperate with folks that aren't genetically related to us and that we have no history of reciprocation with. And the scale is just how much we're willing to sacrifice on behalf of one another. So a really influential article in Nature a while back, from which I got one of these quotes: human societies represent a huge anomaly. Why? Because human altruism is a powerful force and is unique in the animal world. So one kind of end of point number one. We're not talking about an essentialist capacity, as Aristotle up through the Enlightenment argued of human reason, for example. We're not talking about a distinctive genealogy, as many Christians argue about from Adam, or as Jews have argued about since Abraham. When John the Baptist then shows up and says, don't say to yourself, you're children of Abraham, for God is able to raise up children of Abraham out of these rocks. And then he says, let those of you who have two coats give one to those of you who lack one. At least one of the things my colleagues in biology are pointing to in human distinctiveness is an observable behavior, which we'd call love. Okay. Second point, what about the evolutionary context of this distinction? So some of my colleagues are arguing it's an illusion. Michael Gisel is famous for saying, scratch an altruist, watch a hypocrite bleed. No hint of genuine charity ameliorates our vision of society once sentimentalism has been laid aside. And others are arguing, and some Christians say, no, it's real, but it has nothing to do with evolution. Evolution can't give rise to this. We're not only an outlier with respect to other species, we're just an outlier with respect to biological embodiment altogether. And I just want to comment that there's some emerging perspectives in evolutionary biology which help us locate this. There are recent theories of major evolutionary transitions, and I'm not talking about the development of a backbone or moving from water to land. I'm talking about a series of thematically consistent escalations in cooperative interdependence, where previously autonomous entities come together and form a new functionally enhanced entity. So you have self-replicating molecules coming together in a membrane-bound protocell. You have simple prokaryotic cells. This is a biology lesson, I'm going fast, coming together to form eukaryotic cells with organelles that can do things that prokaryotes can't do. You have single cells coming together to form multicellular organisms. And now we're getting the capacity maybe for vision and thermal regulation and locomotion. You have solitary individuals coming together to form eusocial communities. And when I was a graduate student, I would have never imagined this last one. But you have primate sociology ratcheting up to human sociality, mediated by symbols. A number of biologists call these transitions a series of biological big bangs with something altogether new coming about. So are humans unique? Well, at least not only in terms of behavior, but in terms of major evolutionary transition theory, yes. So what's happening here? All these transitions involve cooperative interdependence, not just cooperation, but we have to have one another. They have specialization and division of labor. They have changes in information transmission. This one's important. There's a relinquishment of reproductive autonomy, and all of these things intensify life's capacities. So 50 years ago, the chemist, the philosopher, the Christian, Michael Polanyi says, the evolutionary significance gains a new and deeper significance. We can recognize a strictly defined progression rising from the inanimate to higher, ever higher principles of life. And though viewed as unorthodox or even heretical for a number of years, recently, referring to this quote by Polanyi, Urs Zithmari says, this progress, Polanyi's quote, nowadays described as a major transitions in evolution is often due to the emergence of new cooperative units. I have to say, I find an irony, a beautiful irony here, that these transitions involve relinquishment of autonomy for the sake of gaining higher level function, higher level biotic capacities. In fact, it's, in a sense, I hope I'm not being too glib, he who clings to his life will lose it, and he who loses it will gain his life. And here I need to take a step back and say one of the things I most deeply believe in, related to this topic, but more generally. we can ask, okay, what are the chances of getting life or getting this series by chance alone? Is it equal to monkeys typing out Shakespeare? And by the way, that's a fair question to ask. But if we have this book and we demonstrate that, yeah, it couldn't happen by chance, it has to have an author, that doesn't answer whether the book is Shakespeare or the New York phone book or Hitler's Mein Kampf. So an equally, if not more important question than does nature point to an author is, what does the book say? What is the author trying to tell us through the book? And this is why I love the organization, but I love the term biologos. What is life telling us? Okay, lastly, back to humans. So we're, in a sense, we wouldn't say we're the culmination, because that would suggest that's the last thing. But in a sense, many biologists think we are the apex of this series of transitions. But some biologists argue we're not, because we've done all those things except for the last one, relinquishment of reproduction, reproductive autonomy. We're not ants in a colony. And so that some biologists think we're actually, in a sense, stuck in the transition. 50 years ago, E.O. Wilson pointed this out when he said, man has achieved an extraordinary degree of cooperation with little or no sacrifice of personal survival and reproduction. Exactly how he alone has been able to do this is the culminating mystery of all biology. So here's where I'm going to shut up. Two proposals on the table, which I hope we can discuss, which I'm not going to discuss now, are, I'm going to skip this, are morality and religion. I'm going to play you a morality and religion. I'm going to play you a 30-second video clip. I hope we have of sound. Are we really altogether different? Is there no other organism that even has, let's say, notions of fairness? So here's a 30-second clip from research by primatologist Frans de Waal, in which he's taught capuchin monkeys to give him a pebble, and then he gives them food, either a cucumber, which is perfectly edible, or a grape, which is their favorite food. Oh, shoot. Can we do it?
Grape and you will see what happens.
We can't do it. Oh, here we go.
She gives a rock to us, that's the task. And we give her a piece of cucumber and she eats it. The other one needs to give a rock to us. And that's what she does. And she gets a grape. And she eats it. The other one sees that. She gives a rock to us now, gets again cucumber.
Okay, so here's the question. This actually violates rational self-interest. You're better off with something than nothing. But this creature would rather have nothing than be treated unfairly. Now, the real question is, do they also care about someone else being treated unfairly? And would they be willing to sacrifice on behalf of the other creature being treated fairly? And I'm going to close with a quote from Dan Dennett, one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Dennett says, we have the desire to reproduce and do pretty much whatever it takes to achieve this goal, but we also have creeds and the ability to transcend our genetic imperatives. That fact makes us different. Thank you.